The SPY is to new all-time highs, exactly the narrative that we were looking for before some big crash happens. And the point of this being that we have a new date marked here on the SPY, which would be Wednesday, January 31st. And that's going to be when that Fed rate decision comes in, and we are still pricing in way too many rate cuts. So we are going to be getting into some technical analysis for the SPY, Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and Nvidia. And we're even going to cover AMD today, which I have now established as part of my Patreon. So if you do follow AMD, think about joining that Patreon, because we are going to be giving you those weekly ranges every single week. Let's get into it. I don't want to talk too much about the daily. We did that yesterday. So if you guys want to find some daily chart insight as of the beginning of the week, look for that video that I just made last night. And then for today, we really want to focus on those shorter time frames to see what's going to happen the rest of the week. The main thing I just wanted to point out on the SPY, the Qs already did this, but the SPY did it today. Green impression on the histogram, crossing of the MACD right now, saying that the momentum is going up right next to that overbought territory. So we are really preparing for some kind of divergence to start forming up in these areas, possibly over the next week or two. We're mainly going to be looking at an hourly across the board on these charts. And what we'll notice here is we're seeming to get some kind of consolidation, right? We're getting some kind of consolidation in this area. I don't believe we filled this gap below us, so we could come fill that pretty soon, get this to kind of roll over down here on the MACD, and then get one more push higher, maybe creating some kind of hourly divergence. If we did continue to consolidate for another day, come and fill this gap, we would actually cross on this MACD, getting it to kind of come down and then give one more push up before we see some kind of drop. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen that quick. It never happens how we want it to, but we have to be paying attention to the signs that we're given. So I'm going to come back and show you guys some of these charts later on in the week and see where we're at, see if we have some divergences before January 31st. Now the Qs, we're getting that same consolidation as well. Looks like we did come down and fill that, so we actually could see this head a little bit higher. Now we probably will see a little bit more consolidation, test some trend lines or test some areas that we just broke out of, right in here. Maybe we have to test that, reconnect with this 20 on the hourly before we actually head higher. So we can see some consolidation up here. We don't necessarily have data that I think could shake up this market too much, but we got to be on our toes up in these areas. So I still think we have a good shot to, consolidate maybe for a day and then see some kind of pop, maybe with GDP or something like that, getting us some kind of test, getting us outside of that monthly, and then we'll have to look into next week and see if we're starting to see that fade going into a big Fed rate decision. But let's be clear, even though I'm saying that this is an area where we can start to get some kind of crash happening, we're still bullish at this point. This is not really bearish behavior, right? This isn't some kind of dramatic selling to get us into deeper levels, to get us into negative territory, even on an hourly. Right now, we genuinely are in a bullish moment, and we could see this start to head higher pretty quick. But once we start to get up in this area, that's when I'm going to really pump the brakes and be like, hey, I need to be looking out for some divergences that are saying momentum's dying out, and we may see some kind of downfall. Apple left this gap behind as well, and I'm really paying attention to those weekly ranges for this week, because I'm assuming we're going to see some more bullishness come in. Now, Apple has not, it's pretty overbought at this point, right? So we need to pay attention if this does roll over. Is that just some more consolidation in order to head higher? Okay, so I'm really paying attention to that in a lot of these scenarios. I don't necessarily see anything at this exact moment that could bring us down to lower levels dramatically. So I believe that the trend is your friend into the end. The trend is going to most likely continue unless we get some bad news, which really, I think this is going to be around that Fed rate decision, and we'll have to see what is said about that. Now, if we do want to get some kind of retest, this is how Apple likes to go when it crosses through a very important zone, right? We see that come up, then we get a little touchdown inside of it, and we use that to then trampoline higher. Now, that could really be on the cards for this week, and we're going to update you on that throughout the week. As of right now on the hourly, you're overbought, and you haven't really come out of that overbought territory. You might need to digest first before heading higher. Amazon is a little bit more of a curveball. We actually do have an hourly divergence, right? We see this divergence on the MACD, we see it on the RSI at the same time, okay? So even though this wick comes up a little bit above it, these are measured by the closing of these bars, so this is actually some kind of divergence here, and we need to pay attention to it. this could lead us to get into negative territory. And if Amazon's kind of signaling to us, hey, there may be something bad or the momentum's dying out, and if something bad could happen, Amazon could sell off pretty quick because it's pretty close to that negative territory. I would just draw myself a simple little trend line here, see if we're able to break through some key levels to head higher, and pay attention to those weekly ranges. If we wanted to head higher, obviously if we head lower, we're going to see these divergences kind of play out and get into that negative territory and see us cut below this low, taking out this little trend line. But if we're going to go up from here, we really saw some small head and shoulders really playing out for us. So if you just notice, we do have this little bit in here, we have a head, and maybe this is just enough to now head higher. Maybe it wants to consolidate a little bit more and get a little deeper and then do it. But that's how I would see it heading higher. And then this actual measured move would take us all the way up into our trend line. And that's really why I'm thinking that might be the scenario, but I never ignored divergences, and you do have one. So I will be paying close attention to Amazon as of tomorrow. Tesla, we've been seeing that kind of dramatically sell off in this downtrend, but now we're getting that tapering off. We're kind of coming out a little bit sideways, So we want to pay attention to this. I'm sure if I moved into a 30-minute with these two lows, I'm most likely going to see divergence, right? So now we got that divergence right here on the MACD and the RSI at the same time in our zone that we've been talking about, right at that 207.42. We're starting to bounce above that at this point. If we're able to confirm this divergence one more time, we have a very, very good shot of a bounce in Tesla. And when this was such a dramatic sell-off, we really could see a solid bounce out of Tesla over the next few days. So I just wanted to tell you guys about that. Be paying attention to those weekly ranges, but we do have across the bottom here, you have like a quadruple divergence, and that's something to really pay attention to, especially in a zone of support. What could this divergence do? Well, it could turn up the 2-hour and actually get this thing to move upward. Right now, you're seeing it kind of move up and cross, but we're still heading down. It is a sign that momentum's dying out. So if we do get some good news over the next few days, I would really expect at least some kind of retest of this big triangle that we broke out of, somewhere around that 221 area, most likely. So that's overall what I'm paying attention to on Tesla at this point. I'm just letting you know that Tesla's in an area with divergence where we could see some kind of bounce before heading lower. Nvidia, not the most green day, but another green day, right? We ended here, and now we're ending up a little bit higher. The thing that we really need to pay attention to on Nvidia in the short term here is the divergence. Okay, you do have divergence up here. You have multiple points of divergence, but you do have a triple divergence on the RSI, and you have a divergence on the MACD at the same time. So that's just something we really need to pay attention to at this point. If Nvidia starts to dramatically sell off, that could be a sign that the overall market will. Now, am I leaning towards that? Not necessarily. I don't see anything in the news or anything at this point, even though the technicals are showing you, hey, momentum's dying out, we need some kind of bad news behind that to really get this to flip the script, to really reverse this trend. So we're heading upward. We're looking like we may even go to the top side of that weekly expected move, but maybe this needs to consolidate a little bit and then go up one more time, giving us some kind of triple divergence before the week is over, getting us nice and close to that center line, maybe even hinting that next week we may start a negative trend. So really just pay attention. Nvidia is looking very, very bullish, very, very fast, right? So we do need some more consolidation, maybe even like we did over here where we had these little pops and consolidation, pops and consolidation. We need one more of those most likely to head higher at this point. And I do believe that we might head a little bit higher, but it's a good point in time to be a little bit cautious as we are seeing people get very overzealous in this bullish market right now. AMD this week, I'm actually going to give you those weekly ranges, okay? So we actually started off the week, right up in here, right around that, what is that, 174.30 level. And we saw that sell off in the early morning. So we saw that sell off in the morning, and then we started to trickle up. Now, this could be consolidation for another leg down. What we'd be paying attention to here is a 30-minute, okay? So I'm going to go into a 30-minute here and see, because if this is actually able to curl up and curl back down, giving us some kind of divergence, even in positive territory, that could be a very good sign, especially if it's outside of that weekly expected move. So if we go even deeper, maybe into a 15-minute, if this is able to roll over and give us some kind of divergence down here, maybe even a double bottom or something like that, this actually could head higher with that momentum dying out. You would be using the top side of your monthly expected move as support, and then coming out of our range for the week, which 68% of the time, we land back within this range by Friday close. So this is what I'm paying attention to on AMD. If AMD really wanted to head higher right away, we most likely would just need to see, hey, this high needs to be cut out in order to see that continued bullishness. Because if we come up here and make a lower high, it could mean that we're starting some kind of downward trend on a 15-minute. So really pay attention to this on AMD. I think it has a good chance to consolidate further down into here, and be paying attention because you might get some kind of little 15-minute divergence that might hint at some kind of bounce actually happening before the end of the week. Now, this is the signal that we're overall paying attention to, and that would be TLT versus the SPY TLT coming down like this. The SPY right now came down, now it's coming back up. So we kind of have this, difference in opinion, if you will, between these two types of traders. We have the bond traders telling you, hey, we need to be pricing in the possibility that we're not going to get as many rate cuts, while the market is saying we're going to get all the rate cuts. So I think that is the overall reason that I'm coming up with, that January 31st is going to be very important, because we're going to see that decision from the Fed, and they're very consistent lately. So the fact that they said, hey, we might do 50 basis points, we might do 75, the fact that we're pricing in still 125 to 150, that's too much, and it could be a big wake-up call for the market. The VIX, if you're expecting the VIX to pop over the next couple of days, it would make sense, right? We're getting some kind of divergence here on a 30-minute. I really like my 30-minute divergences for the VIX. I just think that we may actually see the VIX, get some kind of small pop and actually drop a little bit lower to come into this area we've tested a few times, the bottom of this range we used to be in that we just kind of spread out. So I really want to pay attention to this over the next few days. If we do see continued bullishness, I am going to be looking for that 30-minute divergence in the VIX, even if it's just on the MACD or only the RSI and not necessarily at the same time. I really think we're in a time where we could see a dramatic sell-off in the next 2 weeks. Sorry about my dog's scary eyes in the background, but the main takeaway here is we're still pricing in way too many rate cuts. We really haven't seen that wake-up call just yet. So I think we're just, as we continue to head higher, we got that all-time high narrative going now. I really think we're in for a dramatic drop over the next couple weeks. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. I'm coming in after work. I'm trying to do this every single day, so do tune in every single day. Please turn on notifications, because I know my videos are coming out a little bit later, and I really appreciate you guys watching all the way through. Thank you so much. I wish you all the luck in the world trading tomorrow, and I hope you have a good night.